when you leave the military service, your body is innately still moving forward with those things. It wants those things that it got. So we turn to drugs, alcohol, go to jail or commit suicide. For civilians out there listening to this, that's why you see in the media veterans having problems with X, Y, or Z. It's not because we're damaged, it's because we had a lot. So here I am in LA going in this bumper to bumper traffic going, I don't matter. How can I matter? I kind of said to myself, well, if I'm going to be, when I'm going to be, that evolution of if to when, I'm going to find something that makes me feel passion and that helps other people feel the same way. Now, fast forward, we're in the military real estate investing. We created this niche. We're going to end veteran homelessness in the US this decade. Why? Because we can. It's our duty to teach military members that they deserve more. And it's our duty to give back to our community as well.
You're listening to the Guerrilla State Investing Podcast. We're not here to bruise your bananas with guru sales pitches, overrated fluff, or any other kind of monkey business. We simply provide the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate.
All right, today's guest is Eric Upchurch. Eric is prior Army Special Operations. He is also the co-founder of ADPI, which is Active Duty Passive Income. For everybody who's on Facebook, you need to go in, log in. If you've served prior or you're currently active duty military, there's 30,000 members right now. Isn't that right, Eric? Up
That's
to 30,000. Yeah. Yep. And then individual accolades. Eric's got 1,052 units as a general partner and 575 as a limited partner. In addition, he's a high-performance coach, a best-selling author, and is also a philanthropist. I mean, literally, the guy went from the United States military special operations community where he could probably kill you with a napkin, but instead he's building tiny homes for the homeless via the Veterans Community Project. So if you want to look that up, feel free to do so. Eric, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me. And on that napkin thing, I'd more wrap you in a napkin and just give you some love. That'd be more, that's more my thing.
So let's start out with what was it like? Were you investing while you were in the military?
I wasn't. I fell into investing like a lot of military members do, buying a house. I was actually in Iraq in 2006. My first deployment, and bought a house 100% leveraged, the VA loan. My wife signed on the loan docs and moved into a new construction, fully leveraged house. And 2006 buying a 100% leveraged house, really good idea, right?
Yeah.
But nobody knew. It was just market was going up and stuff, and that was fine. I could afford the payment, and I had stability with my job. So ended up when I ETS'd, I ended up renting it out and kind of became a landlord, I guess, that way.
Okay. So you weren't necessarily looking to be an investor, just kind of bought a house and fell into it.
Yeah, not at all. And the terrible thing is, and what the reason we exist now, our company, is you don't know what you don't know. And unless you're prepared to be an investor, or at least, had the forethought when you buy the thing that you might be an investor later on, or a landlord later on, you got to buy it right. And I was making, I think on our good months, we were making $80 a month in net cash flow, which didn't amount to much if anything broke, right? So we were negative at the end of the year, every year owning that asset.
I think that's how almost all military personnel fall into. Accidental landlords is what I call them. We buy something, right. We're forced to move, and now we're forced to be landlords. And that's honestly, most of us end up in real estate if we're interested in investing at all, just because we have such good lending programs in the military that gets us in a home very young. So cool. So you own this house, 2008 happened. I'm sure that was not a good time. When did you get out of the military?
Not until 11. So I was still living in it and had a solid, government paycheck all the way through the recovery, pretty much. Then when I ETS'd in 11, we moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area where my wife is from, which was, as a staff sergeant, making $42,000 a year, an E6, coming back to the Bay Area where cheapest decent house we could buy was $500,000. And that's for a kid from Iowa who was stationed in Georgia. That's quite the shocker, you know?
Yeah. This is a sticker price.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you end up buying? Did you guys end up buying or renting while you were there?
Yeah. So we actually stayed with family. I mean, we just were like really frugal. We had done the whole Dave Ramsey thing while I was in, and I know step one. So we got out of debt, and so that was great. But then when we moved back, we were still being as frugal as we can and just checking things out. And I had a good enough job to support I don't know how, but I could barely squeak out a mortgage payment on a $500,000 house with a VA loan. I had no money to put down. We had, our emergency fund or whatever, but that wasn't a down payment. That's not $100,000 to throw into a house. Yeah. So thankfully we had the VA loan and were able to, afford that payment. And then miraculous Bay Area appreciation happened in 2 years. And at that point, I was like, I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just because I was trying to figure out what was going on with my house in Savannah where I was stationed. I was like, wow, maybe there's something to this. Went to a boot camp. And then by 2014, our house had appreciated by $190K. And nice. My wife and I kind of looked at each other like, could we sell it? Like, wait, if we sold this, we wouldn't even have to pay taxes on the gains.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, we did that 3 times in the San Francisco Bay Area. And there were a couple like rental houses in between and stuff, but kids in tow, we bought a house that was all market appreciation. We bought one on the beach that was market and forced appreciation. And then, which that one appreciated $250K in 9 months because of those 2 things. And then we bought one in the East Bay and did the same thing. And that was, I think, I don't know, $70K or something like that. So,
yeah. And that's, it's almost like in today's world, it's not happening as much. I mean, recently we've definitely had a real estate bump, but yeah, you saw, I mean, I'm with you because I started buying whenever the market was low. And it almost gives you this false sense of accomplishment because everybody's a bull in a bull market. Like the market's going up constantly. You just buying and it's worth more the next day. What could possibly go wrong?
Everybody out there right now, as we're recording this, every market USA, the complaint is it's too expensive. There are no deals. Appreciation is taking over. Inflation is a monster, but yet we're still buying stuff. People are still buying deals. And, I mean, one example, you just have to get creative and this, but as long as you have real estate and just have the long-term in mind, just then along the way, pick and choose what you can do. Maybe you can sell, maybe you can 1031, maybe like I just did on 2 of my properties in Kansas City, I just did a cash out refi. And because I bought it at a higher interest rate, I refinanced it, dropped the interest by 2 full points, pulled $47K out on cash out refi, which is not taxed.
Yep.
And my cash flow went up every month because my interest rate was 2 points lower. So buy at a higher interest rate and wait. I mean, that's what I love about real estate investing. It's so dynamic. As long as your head's on a swivel, you can figure something out as the years go on. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, man, because you're talking about you went to San Francisco or no, it's Bay Area, right?
Yeah. Right.
Barely getting by, had bought at the wrong time of the market. You started making some money in real estate, but from there to now, I mean, you're like a philanthropist. You're building homes for homeless people. There's a lot that's going on in between there, right? So when did you decide I'm all in on real estate?
2017. I had 2017 is when ADPI was co-founded, when we founded the company. And it was really just us getting together and realizing that this could be a thing. But there were there were more people like us, really. There was not really a niche that was cohesive where military members could come and talk about real estate investing. And, the resources weren't really readily available and trustworthy resources. I mean, you get every day, I bet you get 5 mailers saying how well qualified you are for that VA interest rate reduction loan, right? Yeah. And so all of that stuff, right? So we're like, okay, how can we make a trusted community? So there was that going on, but at the same time, I was like trying to figure out who in my network was somebody I could talk to about real estate investing. I went to a boot camp in 2014 and kind of nothing really happened until 2017. Found one of my buddies who looked on social media anyway, looked like he was killing it. Turns out he's syndicated. I went to college with this guy. He's syndicated $2.5 billion in multifamily.
Jesus.
And I see him flying around on jets and stuff. And I'm like, okay, what's going on with him? So of course I reach out and he's like, look, dude, if you would have invested $100K in this last syndication, the first time I ever heard the word syndication. And I was like, what is that? And he goes, if you would have invested 100,000 in this last asset that we owned for 5 years and just sold off, I would have paid you back 290 over that 5-year course. So I was, that idea right there was like, this is the America that is not being taught to kids in Iowa where I grew up, like this is, so he can do it. Why can't I do it? And then, my partner, Markian, couldn't make it to this boot camp. He had been following, one of the gurus out there. And he said, I got a free tickets down in LA. I know you're in California. So can you go? And that is when it was January 2018. It just kind of, my mind was blown. I was literally watching these guys on stage going, that guy's wearing a hoodie. If he's just a normal dude who figured it out, and females on the panel also, I'm like, why can't, if they can do it, there's nothing harder about what they're doing than what I've already done in the military for sure.
Yeah.
So why can't I figure it out? So, started kind of going to those events, signed up for coaching, which I totally believe in. Because I was committed. I'll caveat that sentence with, if you're committed, coaching is amazing.
Yeah.
And then within 9 months, we bought over 400 units and then, started doing deals with my team at ADPI. So it's awesome.
That seems to be and that's one thing that I kind of tell people who are like, hey, man, syndication seems great. It's like, yep. The day you make the decision, like you are truly committed, you got about a year. You got 8 months to a year until you actually close.
That's right. Yeah.
It is true. Like it's not just going to happen overnight. You can't.
No. And that year is the hardest year. It's the hardest year of your life because you're going from 0 to 1 is the biggest step. And then everything else on top of that is like, it's old news. I mean, there's always new stuff. And that's part of what I love about this, but getting that first deal is just always the hardest thing. Even if you're buying a single family property, it's always like, how do I do it? Or flipping a property. I don't know. And then once you do it, you're like, I don't know. There's nothing scary about that. That's a well-traveled path. Why can't I repeat? So just go do it again. So, you get your internal team set, you get your external team set, and then it's just off to the races after deal one.
One of my favorite quotes is, everything you want in life is just outside of your comfort zone.
That's right.
And I love that, because the moment that you reach outside of your comfort zone and you do something, well, now it is inside your comfort zone. You just continue to expand. Like when I first started, the idea of being a landlord was like, oh my God, I don't want to be a landlord. Well, I bought a house with cottages on the back and I was a landlord now. And I was like, landlord's not hard. But then I didn't want, all right, well, now I want to invest somewhere that's not my primary residence. Oh, I don't know. It's across town. Like, how am I going to handle the logistics? I did it. There's nothing to it. Now I want to do commercial. Nothing to it. And now I can do those skill sets, those tools that I have in my toolbox. I can replicate those as many times as I have the energy to do it. Honestly, the problem is every time I do one, I'm done with it. I'm bored with it. I want to keep moving up bigger and bigger. So it's constantly learning about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's why hire a great asset manager, and then you get to move on to the next thing, and they get to handle what you already have in place. I love, I think it was Kennedy, Roosevelt. Man, I can't believe I'm messing that one up. But whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
It was Henry Ford, wasn't it? Yeah, dude. Yeah, you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you've got a large list of things that you've accomplished, right? The one that I really do think is the most impressive is like you have the ability, like an odd ability to build community. You and whoever else is helping you with ADP. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but that group is the most giving, receiving, helping community. I think that's just because, we're veterans. It's what we do for each other. We're the civilian sector. It's typically like the WIFM, what's in it for me with every single thing. But whenever I log in, one of the most active groups that I'm in is ADPI, specifically because there's not nearly as much self-serving mentality. It's how can I help you? Like whether you're brand new or you're a veteran and I mean veteran in real estate investing, not into the military. Yep. Every question is taken seriously. Every answer is respectful. There's not a lot of political banter. It's just very well put together. And you guys pay a lot into the veteran community. Like whenever I hit up Tim Kelly, who's one of you guys' members, just talking to him, the guy sent me like a bunch of free content. Hey, read this, and extremely helpful stuff. Whereas everyone else is going to come with a price tag or like there's something catchy about it, and you guys don't seem to have that. And obviously this is exclusive to military members, but I mean, I think that's probably the predominance of our listeners right now is military members. So if you haven't taken a look at it, go to ADPI on Facebook. Well, my question for you though, Eric, is what's been the most beneficial thing to you about starting ADPI, and how's that helped you out? Like what is in it for you?
So I heard this recently and it really resonates to me. And I'm glad you brought up how helpful we are, and I'll pass that along to the team because we have a couple dozen people working in and on and around the company. And we are so intentional. I mean, we're in meetings daily talking about being so intentional about are we too salesy? Are we not salesy enough? Are we, are we not allowing enough political commentary? Are we, stifling people's what they want to say? And so we take a lot of that feedback and we try to make it one of the best ecosystems out there for the military, certainly for military real estate investors, but just for military people to come in and ask questions. And now we have people coming in asking about credit cards and all kinds. We're becoming a financial resource. And that's because when we started the company, we said, we're going to serve the community. We're going to listen to what the community wants. And that is exactly how we went from 50 members to 30,000 members. And I mean, we added, and this is a closed Facebook group, so everyone's vetted also before they come in. We added 18,000 members this year in 1 year, in the last 12 calendar months. Sorry. And we're exploding because we've been very intentional about giving 90%. And we're a company, we're a business, we sell things, but those are things that we spend so much time vetting, creating, and making sure that it's what we would have wanted as military members. So really cool for you to pick that out. But that's kind of where we are right now. And we're always just listening to our community and seeing what else we can give back. So
did you guys just start it on like a whim, or did you have an intent behind it?
The story is Mark Yan, who's he's our CEO and founder, and he just got out of the Marine Corps. He's a Marine Corps officer, 53 pilot, and then went into public affairs. And he had an idea. He's third generation Ukrainian immigrant, and he just came back to the U.S. His parents are citizens born here, but he grew up in Ukraine, came back to the U.S. In his teenage years, and he was just amazed at the U.S. and just amazed at something as simple as a roller coaster, and then freedom and financial freedom. And then he started kind of really just digging in. He went to Naval Academy, and he started digging into real estate investing. And he wrote a little pamphlet that is now a lot of the core of our best-selling book, Military House Hacking, and which is free also on our website. And that was the core of what he wanted to do. He was just documenting his progress on buying a turnkey property and trying to make his life and family generational wealth and all of this stuff. So it really just started from that. And then he started networking with people who were like-minded, and he found Mike and I, and we were like, man, we'll put some time into this. We'll make this thing awesome, because I have the passion for turnkey and for whatever, and I'm getting started. And, this is 2017, and it was just a Facebook group and the beginning of Military House Hacking as kind of pamphlet guide to how to get started. So
that's something I got to do better is like when I have a thought, my first thought is not to put it down on paper. And recently I've been posting a bit more, and I've really not been posting to get likes or anything. It's really just so I have a tracker. Like I'm putting my thoughts on paper.
Yeah.
And I want this to be out there. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't like it. In fact, I actually posted on ADPI recently a pretty long-winded post about, I think it was called Play Chess, Not Checkers. Cool. And one of y'all's assistants reached out to me and asked if they could turn it into a blog post. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And she took
Beautiful.
it, rewrote the whole thing. I mean, she said everything that I would have said, just said it much better. Made it an ADPI blog post and shared it, tagged me in it and stuff like that. And now I've got somewhere an actual searchable link that has my thoughts into it. And I just thought that's really cool, man. Like there's most Facebook groups do not have somebody who is looking at it like that. Hey, I actually read your post. Like the admins aren't always reading the post. She read the post, said, before I do post this, I think it would be better served as a blog post. And I was like, man, I'm actually really impressed by that. That's cool.
It must have been valuable enough that she was like, well, a lot of our members are going to find value in this. So let's make it something that's going to last longer than a feed, scrolling through someone's Facebook feed. And honestly, the algorithms, it's funny the way they work with 30,000 members, unless someone is in the group, if they're just on their own feed, they're probably, only 5-10% might see that post unless they're actually in the group. So serve you a lot better for sure. And it'll serve people who need that information better too, because we'll actually actively go and tag people on your blog. So
it made me want to write more, right? Like I wouldn't call myself a writer, but when I do take the time to write, I do enjoy doing it. I should write more. Like every time I have a thought, I should
absolutely. Especially if you're just if you're just documenting your lessons learned, write some lesson learned blogs and success stories, and it'll help people. There's a lot of people who are just in the shadows, scared to take action, not really sure what to do. And that's kind of why we exist. It's just an epiphany moment is all we're looking for one member. Cause it's what we got at one point or another. We all got on the ADPI team, an epiphany moment, just that, oh man, I can do that. And that's what we want other people to realize. It doesn't matter if you're active duty serving, never served, if you're a veteran, whatever, or mil spouse, whatever the case may be, you just need a spark, somebody to say, you can do it. I did it. I'm nobody special. So here, try this,
What was your aha moment, like your epiphany moment in real estate investing?
It was definitely reading Rich Dad Poor Dad for me. It was 2012 to 14 when I'm sitting in a house that's like going up in value. And I went to a flipping boot camp, hook, line, and sinker, like heard the ad for the free 90-minute seminar or whatever on a Friday afternoon. Went to it and they're like, for $1,000 you can go to this tax lien seminar. And then it was like, oh, for $25,000 you can get advanced training, whatever. And so just hook, line, and sinker. I was like, I came home and then I had to sell my wife on the idea that this was really great. This is going to change our lives forever. You know how hard that is. If anyone out there listening has gone to a conference by yourself without your spouse and you come home from it fired up, like even like a Tony Robbins event or something, you come home, babe, check this out. I just learned this stuff and this is going to be amazing. It's going to be life-changing. Your spouse is like, crickets. Like,
expect to hit a brick wall of reality.
Yeah. What are you talking about? We got bills to pay.
It sounds like you went to like a Than Merrill Fortune Builders or something like that. Is that what it was?
Similar. It was, the company's not even around anymore, but it was along the lines of like the Rich Dad Education type of platforms. There was a bunch of them out there in 2012, 2014,
Yeah. I mean, I guess it got you started or it got you excited. So it is what it is. That was fantastic because the people that I met. So after leaving that event, I couldn't go and flip houses in the San Francisco Bay Area. I didn't have nearly the resources I needed or experience, and people were paying $700,000 over the asking price at that time, also for a burnt out shell of a house. So, but what I did do was network in the room.
I met with a contractor, this guy who's just there to reinvent himself and kind of reinvigorate his business. He was 55 years old. I went and sat next to him, had lunch with him, and he ended up renovating my house on the beach in this nice little beach town called Capitola, near Santa Cruz, California. And that made me $250,000 on that, in that 9-month span that we lived there with my family. Jesus. So that relationship right there was obviously, 10x my investment in that, in that boot camp.
Yeah. So. Well, nice. So in your accolades, it says you're a high performance coach. What does that mean to you? Like, what are you able to take somebody and do with them with that capability? Yeah.
So the certified high performance coach is actually a Brennan Burchard certification training program. And it doesn't have anything to do with real estate, but for people who like to help people, I mean, I'm a real estate coach, and I like to think that I'm a high performer. And I think that I can actually listen to people and bring out what they need and what they want, even if they don't know what that might be. So, over X amount of time, say it's 6 months, just sitting down with somebody, getting to know them, and then really just getting them to formulate what the best life would look like for them and getting them to act on it. It's that epiphany. It's that one thing. And I don't care if you want to be like the best auto mechanic ever in the whole world. Okay, well, let's bring that out and figure out how to make your life amazing. And so to me, that's kind of what the high performance element is. And I love that aspect of real estate, but just in life in general.
Yeah. So we ended up, a member of your team, Tim Kelly, ended up being one of our coaches. And at the end, I told Tim, I said, I hope you don't take offense to this, but the main thing that I learned by hiring you as a coach was that I don't need a coach to do this. And he said, that's exactly what a coach is supposed to do. And I thought about that. I was like, you're right. You know what? Because if I'm sitting down thinking I need a coach to get me through this, and by the end of it, I have enough confidence to know that I don't need a coach to get me through this. I, in fact, needed that coach, right? But you see what I'm saying? Like all he did at the end of it was show us, hey, you guys, you're on the right track. You know what to do. Yep. The biggest problem that we had is we didn't know that we knew what to do. We didn't know that we were on the right track. So that leaves a lot of stresses the team out because you don't necessarily see your forward progression in the form of dollar signs, but our forward progression in the form of having our team together, searching and vetting deals is all part of the process. And I mean, sometimes, a lot of people will get mad at the process. In fact, side note, I got a dumb story about that I really like to tell people. Is one day I was out on Christmas leave with my family, and my brother-in-law, my father-in-law were there, and we were at this house, like this cabin out in the woods. And there was one day that we had planned that all the guys were going to get out and go hike to this waterfall. Right? This is a stupid story. I'm going to go ahead and put it with that, but the father-in-law didn't bring boots, and it was raining outside. It was the one day that it was beautiful weather the whole time. The one day we wanted to go out and get on a hike, it started pouring down raining. And so we had to stop at this little sporting goods store, and there's this old salty soul behind there selling sporting goods equipment. He's like, I'm a 70-something-year-old man, gray beard, wrinkly face, looked like he had been living outside his entire life. And we go to check out by the boots, and he goes, he says, what are you guys up to today? And he says, oh, we're hiking to the triple waterfall out here in Asheville, North Carolina. And he's like, oh, that's a good hike. I said, yeah, of course. The one day we want to get out of the house to go for a hike, it's pouring down raining. Like I'm complaining about it, right? Mm-hmm. And he looks at me and he goes, you know what? You can't complain about the rain when you're hiking to a waterfall. And I thought, I don't think this guy thought he was imparting wisdom on me or really cared. I think he was just being an asshole, to be honest. But that is very true. Like that's part of the process for a waterfall to be created is rain. That's great. That's part of the process. You're going to see water fall and you're complaining about water falling on you. You're hiking and you're complaining about being out in nature and seeing natural things. So that honestly, again, that guy did not care to impart wisdom on me, but that little saying has taught me, like, look, man, sometimes the process sucks. You just got to go through it. Everything of beauty has a horrible route to get there. And that's kind of what me and my team had to learn. It really did take us a coach to push through that. I don't think we needed a coach, but we needed a coach, if that makes sense.
Totally does. And one of the most flattering things to a coach is when you can sign off with your clients, and obviously you stay in touch, but when you can sign off by just saying, keep going. Like you've got it.
It's like the dating app that's meant to be deleted. Right? That's pretty much what it is. But I mean, Tim did a great job, and he got us where we need to be. Our sole purpose was we need to close one deal by the end of 6 months, and it's exactly what we did. So
love it.
I couldn't be more happier. But so what is it with you in philanthropy? Like, I think that's kind of like the progression of everybody wants to get to where they can get into philanthropy. But a lot of the times people look at it and say, well, I can't really help like the oxygen mask theory. I can't really help anybody else until I've helped myself. When did you actually start being able to give back, and what has that done for you?
Well, I'll tell you a good story which makes me kind of realize maybe what is motivating me to give is, I was down in LA with my W-2 job. I was wearing the company logo in a short sleeve polo in a maroon Dodge minivan on the 405 near LAX. So this is like really painting a terrible picture for you.
Twisted
out there,
steel and sex appeal.
just the worst, the ugliest rental car you could ever imagine. Manager's special, wearing my polo, and just going to some meeting that someone was going to be mad because my price was too high or whatever the thing was. Right. And I just remember looking around in bumper to bumper traffic and going, and this is probably 2013, 14. And I'm just going, I don't matter. What am I doing? I am an ant. I mean, I really it was like, I mean, not really out of body, but like, I really just, my perception of the world kind of changed at that point. I felt like looking down on the earth and going, unless I'm doing something, as long as I am breathing, I have purpose. And a lot of veterans get out and just, and I talk about this often on podcasts, you're in the military, and this will shed some light for some civilians and give perspective to why I feel this way about giving back. But when you're in the military, you get accolades, awards, rank progression, salary bumps, you get pats on the back, you get camaraderie, team, mission, purpose, a real sense of purpose. And you get adrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, you get all of that. It's a really well-structured thing to make you want to continue. And you hear people coming back from the military, from deployments and stuff saying, I just want to go back. Right. Yeah. Or from training missions or from whatever it is. Now, imagine all of that. That's a lot. Oh, and the highest recorded levels of cortisone, which is the stress hormone, and cortisol in a human. And you get out of the military. When you transition, you no longer have a sense of purpose. You don't know where to be, when, what to look like. Civilians are unpredictable. No one's patting you on the back for doing your job. Pay raises are harder to come by and very unpredictable. There's no more serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline. So what do veterans do? It's just like you hitting a tree. If you go off the road, the car stops immediately, abruptly, but your body and your organs thrust forward. That is your body. When you leave the military service, your body is innately still moving forward with those things. It wants those things that it got. So we turn to drugs, alcohol, abuse, attention getting, go to jail or commit suicide. That is the reality of the matter for civilians out there listening to this. That's why you see in the media veterans having problems with X, Y, or Z. It's not because we're damaged, just because we had a lot and it was abruptly taken. And so we need to be redirected. So here I am in LA going in this bumper to bumper traffic going, I don't matter. How can I matter? So I kind of said to myself, well, if I'm going to be, when I'm going to be, and that evolution of if to when, not saying like, I think I will, it's I'm going to do this. Yeah. I'm going to find something that makes me feel passion, that makes me want to keep on breathing, and that helps other people feel the same way. And so, now fast forward, we're in the military real estate investing. We created this niche, and there are 35 to 40,000 veterans that are homeless in the US, and veterans and housing is kind of what we do. So we figured out a way to donate a couple houses to Veterans Community Project last year. The 5-year plan is to be donating $1 million a year. 10-year plan, we're going to end veteran homelessness in the US this decade. So because we can, and we should. It's our duty to teach military members that they deserve more, and it's our duty to give back to our community as well.
Why do you think, and you sound like somebody who's put more thought into this than I have. What is it about a vet that we have so much when we're in the military, so much structure, we have so much capability, we can keep going. How does a guy end up on the streets after? I'm asking because I'm curious. Like, I don't.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's what got me to go see behavioral health when I got out. I loved what I did in the military. Deployed 6 times, special operations, and I got out and I was like, la-di-da, everything is great. But I was also the burial detail NCOIC. So I buried 6 of my friends. We lost 19 while I served, and we continue to do so. So I was exiting 3rd Street ramp in San Francisco. Never forget it. I saw a homeless veteran, and I said to myself, I bet you 20 years ago, that guy did not think he'd be sitting here in San Francisco homeless after serving his country. Yeah. So what do I need to do to not be this guy in 20 years? And that was get my butt to the VA and go see a psychiatrist and work through some stuff, which I was glad to do. But I think kind of in line with what I was saying earlier is, why do veterans become homeless? They could become homeless because there's an abrupt shift in that life. We are community and followers. We're a community of followers as human beings, right? And in the military, that's exacerbated. We need each other as followers, as enlisted or officer corps. There's a hierarchy. There's always someone else to follow instructions. It's well laid out. It's, there's regulations for everything. There's a way to do things. It's very well structured. When you get out, unless you have something to transition to, you lose sense of who you are, what your purpose was. You don't have a commander telling you your purpose is to show up at PT at 06. You don't have that anymore. So what do? I don't know. I guess I got to go figure out something dangerous to do to get my high for the day, and then those types of things. I mean, that just random scenario, but those types of things can spiral over months and years. So.
Yeah, I think it's definitely guys can, because the amount of stuff we see or do, mentally, it can mess you up. And then if you refuse to get the help for it or don't take advantage of the assets that we have in the military, well, you're left to drugs to fix your problems. I mean,
right.
It's insane.
Numb the pain. Yeah. Numb the pain somehow. And unfortunately, I mean, I guess fortunately the stance has changed in the last 10 years. But when I was serving, going to be behavioral health, to see a psychiatrist, when I put the first friend that died in Afghanistan, when I put him into his final resting place with my brothers, and I had to maintain military bearing, not cry, listening to his mother cry and fold the flag for the last time over his casket, that has an effect on you. Yeah. And I wasn't able to go home back to my unit and grieve. It was on to the next mission. We got to deploy. We're deploying every month. So, it's right back at it. And if you go say, hey, I need to take a break, I got to go see the chaplain, or I got to go see behavioral health, you could leave the unit. So thankfully the special operations community has changed, but it wasn't, back then it was like, suck it up. I know we're hurting, but we got stuff to do. So.
That's awesome, man. Well, Eric, brother, I'm going to go ahead and transition this into the 3 questions that I ask all the guests that come on here, because I'm really interested in what it is that you have to say, because you've had such a diverse investing career as well as a military career. So the first one I ask is, what has been your biggest mistake in real estate?
100%. It's got to be that I didn't start earlier. Ignorance is my excuse, but ADPI exists now. If real estate investing as a military member or veteran sounds appealing, man, there's our best-selling book is free. It's a great starting point. And all I would ask is that you look for that spark, look for that epiphany moment that didn't exist when I was a lower enlisted guy just getting started. And now it does. So wish I had gotten started earlier, but you've got to have somebody tell you, go get started. Here's a resource in order for you to get that spark.
Yeah, I actually started with a house hack. And back then, I'm sure it's the same with you. We didn't call them house hacks.
Yeah.
Buying a house,
living
that
with
some
buddies.
rental income. Yeah. But that's exactly. I mean, Eric's right. It's exactly that. To me, it's the easiest. In fact, I put that in that blog post. The easiest way to get started is to do a house hack. Because it's such a good way. If you want to go all in, try jump into a syndication and call me in 12 months whenever you got your first lead, really. But a house hack itself is something that you can use your VA loan. It's so simple for military personnel to do, and it makes so much sense. In fact, I live in a house hack right now. I've got tenants 2 walls over that are paying me $135 a night to stay in my own house. So I still do it. It is free money. Yeah. All right. Well, Eric, what is your definition of success?
This is something that I've kind of coined over the years, and I just know that it's 100% accurate and it works every single time. So take notes if you're listening to this. Learn, network, add value, take action. You're going to learn everything you can, whether that's coaching or reading or whatever it is. Don't overthink it. Just start the process. You've got to be able to speak the language of whatever it is you're trying to learn. So learn, network your butt off, get out there to conferences, whether the local, start a meetup, whatever it is, nationwide conferences. People need to know you. Network. You got to tell people who you are and what you can provide them, which leads to the third one, which is add value. I separate that from networking because I truly believe that if you go to network, you're thinking about yourself. If you go to add value, you're super networking. You are becoming an important piece in someone else's team, in someone else's game, in someone else's deal. So listen to the people you're talking to. They'll human nature. We will always tell you something that's wrong in our world. It's one of the first things we like to do as humans. Yeah. Here's what's wrong. It's raining on a day we're hiking to the waterfall, right? So I'll try and find a solution. Hey, there's a guy, an old man who will sell you some boots down the road. That's super networking. I'm listening to your problems, trying to figure out a way to solve them. And then and the last one is going to be take action. The rest of it is a moot point if you do not take action. If you're analytical, it's going to be hard for you to take action. You're going to think you can do it all on your own. You're going to think that it's something you can just keep on learning. I'm telling you right now, learn to know the language, but then take action steps so it's not scary, so you can move on to the next thing. So learn, network, add value, take action. If you do those 4 things with the intention to only be 1% better daily, success will hunt you down.
So that sounds like a great way to get successful, right? But when do you hang your hat and say you have reached success?
I don't think that there is a finality to that. There's got to be a goal behind a goal. One of my mentors said the most depressing day of his life was when he built a $10 million property, his dream property in Florida. And he went swimming one night and he was looking at his 20-foot water pool or waterfall going down into his swimming pool. And he started crying because he had made it. And he had nothing behind it to move forward to. So success to me is continual learning, continual trial and error, and just constantly moving forward.
Fair enough, man. Good answer. So the last question, since this is the Guerrilla State podcast, what really bruises your bananas in the world of real estate? What I mean is, what are the myths out there that when you hear them, you're just like, man, that is so wrong. That's not true. Don't listen to that. What bruises your bananas?
I don't think I've heard this question often. So thank you for asking this. This is an amazing question. I've got several answers for you.
Go ahead.
One is that you can do it on your own. Definitely not in the multifamily world. So get over yourself. If you think you can do it on your own, you might have to get through it one way or another, the hard way or the easy way. But don't try to do it on your own. People are willing to help you. We're a communal species. We love helping each other kind of just naturally. So, I'm not saying form a partnership right off the bat, but make some relationships and bounce your ideas off of people and don't do it on your own. Next thing is you need money to do this. I hear that all the time. Actually, you don't. In the first 571 units that we purchased. I have zero of my own money in those deals. So don't tell me you need money to do this industry, to do real estate investing. And then the next one is kind of a combination, but just common objections. Don't have the time is a big one. Listen to me. I've got a full-time W-2. I run with a team, an amazing team, active duty passive income. We have 5 companies in that entity, in that enterprise. I've got over 1,000 doors to operate, and I have a wife of 16 years and 2 kids. And I do not miss reading to my children at night, putting them to bed. So if you're out there thinking you don't have the time, you do have the time. You just have to make it. You have to find it. It takes 8 to 10 hours a week to get started in this industry, and it can be less and less over the years as you go on. So you can do it.
I'm glad you brought up the concept of time right there, because I was the saying there's 86,400 seconds in every day. What are you doing with yours? And time is something that I obsess over. And my biggest pet peeve is whenever I feel like I've wasted my time. I do not mind spending my time, but I cannot stand wasting my time. I don't have time to waste, right? And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's one of the most important things to me and why I invest in real estate. It's all to buy back time. Like, that's my why. Is are your parents still alive?
Yep.
Are they retired?
Yep.
Were they investors?
Nope. My dad just started. Actually, my mom now is invested in one of my deals.
Yeah. Well, roughly how old are they? Like in their mid-60s?
Mid-60s, yep.
Mid-60s, right? They probably recently retired within the last 5 years. Yeah. Yep. So my dad's mid-60s. He's retiring this year. My mom's mid-60s. She might retire soon. I think what I think that is you are just learning to dance when the party is over. I do not want to wait until I'm mid-60s to be able to do what I want. In fact, my definition of success is not doing things you don't want to do, and not doing things that you don't want to do because you don't have to, and doing things that you do want to do because you can. That is like my tagline for success. And God dang, man, working until you're 60 something. I'm 34. I've had back surgery. I've been sent to the ER for a tension headache. I've had some close calls diving and jumping. I've had some close calls in battle. And to think that I somehow get to should wait until I'm 60 something to be able to do the shit that I want to do. No way. I don't have time. Yeah. You and I both have probably, you rode in helicopters for a living. We all know I'm scared as hell of a helicopter. I've lost a bunch of friends in helicopters, and you have too. I have to imagine that's a wake up call to say, I don't have time to wait till I'm mid-60s to start doing what I want to do. No way. And so time to me is very important. It's the most important thing. And this is the only commodity that everyone has, but no one gets more of or less of, unless it's cut short. But money's unlimited, right? You can make as much money as you want. So if we're sitting out here fighting here for money, well, that's an infinite game. Time is very finite. So I don't know, man. I'm glad that you brought those up and you mentioned time. I love whenever people start talking about time. In fact, I'm pretty much obsessed with the idea of time and how we spend it and stuff. But well, Eric, man, it's been a great podcast. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad to spend this 3,600 seconds with you here on this show. So good way to spend that time.
Exactly, man. It's time well spent. It's not time wasted. It's time well spent. But so for everybody out there, if they want to get a hold to Eric Upchurch, other than joining the ADPI Facebook community, which I highly, highly recommend if you are active duty, previously served or currently serving, how do they get a hold of you? How do they learn more about you? What do they do?
Yeah, I'd just recommend reach out to me on social media. I'm very responsive at Real Eric Upchurch on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook too. Or you can find me in the group for sure. So,
okay, brother, sounds good, man. Yeah, I appreciate your time, man, and glad to have you on the show.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Gorilla State Investing Podcast, where we give you the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate. Learn more at realfocus.org/Gorilla State Pod.